Hello, and welcome to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm your host, Joni Advent Maher, mystic, spiritual midwife, and visionary leadership guide. It's my great pleasure to share inspiring and intimate conversations and emerging wisdom gathered from our collective feminine journey of awakening. My guests are revolutionary women at the cutting edge of both personal and global transformation. I invite you to join us in claiming our sovereignty, changing the world, and flourishing no matter what. Welcome to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm so glad to be with you, beloved. I am Joni Advent Maher. I am a mystic, a spiritual midwife, and a transformational guide. And today we are in our third of a three-part series on feminine mysticism. And as it would turn out, this is our final episode before we head into the new decade. And I can't imagine a better topic for us to dive into before we make this big transition. So what I want to talk to you about today is our body, our sensual body as a portal to experiencing heaven on earth. And that may sound like a lofty, ambitious idea, but I am having moments and have had some experiences lately that lead me to believe it is closer for us than we might realize. So I first want to start out by saying that it really is, it's like peace on earth. Heaven on earth starts with our nervous system. It starts with our body. Like we are living at home on the earth in these bodies. And these bodies are amazing. They are so attuned in crazy and outrageous ways for, I'm going to say, maximum enjoyment, for maximum being in tune with the outer world, both the concrete, literal outer world, as well as the spiritual world. And our bodies are so undervalued and underappreciated, I dare say, by many of us. And certainly that has been true for me for a long, long time. In fact, for a very long time, I didn't want to be in my body. As someone who experienced trauma and complex trauma growing up, I learned it was safer for me to not be in my body, or that was the coping strategy that I adopted. And it's been over the years of my own healing journey that I have come back in to inhabit my body and to feel the feelings that go along with that, and to clear out those aspects of trauma or wounding that I've been holding in my body. And that's what we do. There is a book out these days from a prominent trauma researcher and therapist, and the name of the book is called The Body Keeps the Score. And I bring it up just to say, again, going back to that point, that our bodies are such amazing, amazing things and beings. And they do hold the aspects of wounding. If we don't deal with it, it does get lodged in the body and it stays there. So whether it's the old lies, the old stories, the old beliefs, or whether it is old feelings that we haven't given ourselves permission to feel, whether it's grief or sadness or rage or disgust or shame, they all live within the body. And so when I make a bold statement like heaven on earth begins with the sensual body, that may seem like I'm talking about two different ends of the spectrum, and I'm not. So I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into this and unpack it a little bit. But let's suffice it to say that our bodies are incredible. For right now, I just want you to pause for a minute and I want you to say to your body, body, you are incredible. And I am so grateful for all the ways you have been supporting me and holding me and carrying me along throughout this life. So again, I want you to just go ahead and say, body, you are incredible. And that is the truth. Okay, now that we've done that, so when we are on a journey of awakening, of healing, of transformation, at some point, if you're not doing it from the beginning, you do reach the point where you start to inhabit or come into the body more fully. You start to engage with whether it's those emotions or whether it's the beliefs and the way they show up. And sometimes when I say engaging with those issues in the body, it can also be in the form of illness or physical symptoms. I cannot tell you how many times I have had physical symptoms manifest as a result of an emotional or physical trauma that I was processing. And they didn't have a, quote, regular diagnosis or underlying purpose. And as soon as I finished working with the issue, they would resolve themselves. So one of my foundational baselines is that the body does store our old wounds and the old baggage. But here is the other piece that I have learned from my teachers and my mentors, along with the wounding that's present and held through the energy in the body. We also have health that has never been lost. We have a state of well-being and health that exists right now in real time in your tissues, in my tissues, it's there and it's accessible. And it's a matter of opening the right doorway. It's a matter of entering the portal that will support us with accessing that health that has never been lost. I have done work over the last few years, and there are many body-based modalities that are wonderful in terms of treating and supporting and helping in this regard. Somatic experiencing is one body of work that I highly recommend. Biodynamic craniosacral work is also very powerful for this, but they are not the only two. There are many, many wonderful options that can help us free the body of the trauma that exists and access that health and well-being that has never been lost. So I operate from a foundation, if you are on a journey of healing, of awakening, of transformation, that at some point in that journey, you will come back to addressing your body, living in your body, inhabiting your body. So that's the baseline. And as we do that, the more we clear out And the more we access those spaces of health and well-being, it allows for two things. First and foremost, it allows us to experience the best that life has to offer. And what I mean by that is that we are hardwired for connection and for love. So I'm not talking about fancy meals, although that may be a part of it, or fast cars or beautiful clothing, although all those things can be an aspect of it. I'm going back to the baseline as human beings in, as what Mary Oliver calls, soft animal bodies. We are hardwired for love and connection. And when we can access those spaces of health within us, it allows us to feel safe in the body, to open our hearts, to connect with others. So just think about how yummy and delicious it feels to snuggle up with, whether it's your partner, your puppy, your grandchild, or maybe even your child. Just that oxytocin, serotonin experience of connection, of softening, of opening, of that deep love, and letting that in. I want you to just take that feeling in, that remembrance. And along with that, like that is part of our birthright and our destiny, to have that degree of yumminess and pleasure, whether it's sensual pleasure or sexual pleasure with a partner. Like that is our birthright, to flourish in that way. And I would dare say that at the same time as we have that capacity to open to our connection to fellow human beings, we have the capacity to open and connect with the fullness of life around us. So whether it's our animal beings or the natural world around us, once we start to access that place of health that's never been lost within us, brings tears to my eyes because I'm very emotional about this. We can open to the support of life that is here and is present for us in any given moment. Like you may not realize to what extent the whole of creation has your back. And there is so much love in this world for each of us. I have experienced it firsthand, and I know that I am being shown and experiencing these things because I meant to pass it on. I meant to let people know, like, this is what's true. This is what is possible for us to open our spiritual senses to such a degree that we can experience literally heaven on earth. Whew. So I just want to let you know that you are so deeply cherished. I don't know if you're aware of that or if you can take that in. But I am here to tell you that the whole of the universe cherishes you and loves you and wants only the best for you and is actively working on your behalf. And that can feel hard to recognize many days or most moments in any given day, because most of us are walking around disconnected from that. But that is the deepest truth. That is the ultimate truth. That you are loved and you are cherished and you are love. And you may have heard that countless times before. I know I have heard that, and I have seen it, and I have liked the meme that says that. But when you can take that in on a cellular level, it is life-changing. It is absolutely life-changing. And I firmly believe that this is what we are being called to in the next 10 years. We are closing out a decade, and there has been so much growth that has been happening in this decade. I mean, it has been like demolition time. And we're moving into a decade where we'll do more of that clearing, but we'll also start to build on a new foundation. And I believe that those of us, if you're listening to this recording, you're someone who is on the forefront of accessing these new foundations and living these new realities. You came into this life to be a part of the great awakening and the transformation that's happening on the earth, and that the earth is experiencing herself. And with that comes your capacity to open to these states of pleasure and of, I would say, heaven on earth experiences. I invite you to just take a breath and pause and see if you can feel into the truth of that. See if you can feel the call within your heart or within your being that says, yes, this is true. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm meant for. I'm meant to be a part of this change. And that always begins with ourselves, and that always begins in our bodies. So I see 3 aspects or elements that are important. One is learning to settle our nervous system and tending the wounds and the trauma that lives within our tissue. Secondly, inhabiting your sensual body, opening to your longing, opening to pleasure. And lastly, what I call opening your spiritual senses, again, to that state of grace and love that is holding you. Now, these aren't necessarily a, B, and C order. They can all be happening intermittently, but certainly we have to inhabit the body to access these possibilities. So if you're in the phase where either there is a lot of physical pain or symptoms or illness, or there's a lot of emotional pain, I just want you to hear that it's not going to be like this forever. While we continue to do layers of healing and transformation throughout our life, I have found that there is a deep and intense passage we often move through in our transformational journey or awakening journey that does start to diminish and subside, and things get more consistently joyful and pleasurable, and those moments of delight and, as I said, experiencing heaven on earth get to be more ever present. So I want you to know that is in your future. It may be in your future literally 2 minutes from now. Things are moving really rapidly in this transformational process, and 2020 is going to be a gangbuster year. Given that, I want to share with you an opportunity to join me in a small group exploration of these principles, of the practices that take us into the sensual body, that open our spiritual senses, that expand our capacity to receive and to continue clearing out, whether it's the old lies or the old emotions, the old baggage that are keeping us from accessing that state of health that's never lost, from accessing our capacity to flourish. I have gathered my most tried and true resources, some amazing guest teachers, and some delightful surprises and treasures to take a small group of 16 women into the heart of sumptuous living, creating a life of sumptuous support where we can prosper in all ways and flourish as we were intended to claim our birthright to do that, not just on our own, but to do it with support, because it is nearly impossible to access these states of awakening, of receptivity, of flourishing on our own. We need community. Otherwise, it's just too easy to get pulled back into the old story, the old pattern, and the old habit. So if this sounds like something that you've been looking for, or as you listen that your heart and your soul is whispering, I need this. I know I need this right now. I want to encourage you to go to the website and check it out, revolutionaryheart.com. Up in the toolbar, there is a space for sumptuous living, or you can go to sacredfeminineflow.com and access the information directly from there. So, beloved, as we bring this to a close, sending you a deep bow of love and appreciation and gratitude for you being a part of my journey in this last decade. And as we cross the threshold into the next decade, I want to remind you, as always, to trust what your heart knows. Thanks for listening to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And visit theradianceequation.com to receive your copy of The Radiance Equation, a visionary's guide to coming out of hiding, owning your wisdom, and creating your greatest impact.